We doing? Share my stream. Morning, good morning, afternoon. ETC giving a bit of a move here. Right, we'll give it a minute or so, and then we can start. Turn the music down a little bit. How do I get? Okay. Do I change that chat box? I think that's why I removed it, because I couldn't see it. Nice. All right, another Twitch/YouTube stream. If anyone is watching on YouTube, I can't really tell. I don't look at the chat there. But pretty strong like move from BTC. You know, it's just been grinding up. Overall, pretty boring PA for me. At least I've found the past week or so has been pretty difficult to try and find positions. Getting some scam moves up through like Asia, and a lot of the time you're just seeing these sort of like coins getting walked up. I mean, TON's a pretty good example. I mean, look at that 3-day chart, pretty mad move from TON. 70% up in so far in 3 days. But yeah, like really aggressive PA. Like these setups are good to trade continuation on, but you just have to be in the right place at the right time for them. For example, this morning we had a really nice setup on TON, a really simple continuation setup you can trade on these like on these top gainers is using the developing weekly VWAP, and then the developing weekly value arrow high, and then also just the Z score. I think my length is 20 on the Z score. Check. Yeah, Z score period 20, and essentially it's really as simple as buying when you're in like a really imbalanced market. So there's a couple ways of like how you can identify whether a coin is like an imbalanced market, right? Some it's fairly self-explanatory. You can just sort of look at the PA, but also for me, I use like VWAPs. You can just buy when the Z score goes to sub 2, and then price retests the developing weekly value arrow high, and often they give like really nice continuation setups. Oh, my lab short just got stopped. I was trying to short lab this morning, but that just got stopped out. probably won't try and short this again. Super aggressive. I'll move on to that lab short in a second. But yeah, so these are the setups I'm looking to play, but there's far and few of them because the trends have been so aggressive on these coins. This was one from stream yesterday. in the Discord. We had the Z score sub 2 price retest the developing weekly value area high, and you can see sort of like, I mean, I probably would have only played this bounce, but the move is there. Yeah, we haven't really been getting retests on the developing weekly value area high. They're just like the developing weekly value area highs like here, and price is just doing this. So it's really hard to try and find them when they do happen. But yeah, I tried to take a short on lab here this morning for the group, but that just got stopped. It was a pretty nice setup. We had this sort of push into the 2.5 to 3 standard deviation on the monthly, quarterly, and also the yearly VWAP. So it was a pretty nice place to try and get short, but for a breakdown. But obviously, I think we had like an initial like 4% drop or something, but it's ended up bouncing. So yeah, I won't be shorting this again. Really, I'd only like to try and trade the first time into these levels, something like this, when it starts to do like a strong trend into these values. I mean, it's not really something I'm interested in shorting. There's a couple coins I like the look of for long today. This turbo coin, I think we can see a breakout on turbo. 1.6 looks pretty good for it. You can see there's quite a lack of volume compared to what we've been doing elsewhere within this area. So there's a good chance if turbo starts to break out, we can probably get a move to this 1.6 region. So I've got my eye on turbo for a long. Again, what I'm basically looking for is a breakout on the weekly VWAP, similar to just the setups that I just discussed on TON, where we see sort of like a breakout here, and then we can buy into the developing weekly value area high for a bounce, and targeting sort of 1.4 all the way to 1.6, which, you know, is about I think about 40% move, 25% move. But also here, like we're starting to flip the prior monthly VWAP, and also we're trading above that developing monthly value area high. So a good sign that we could be moving into like an imbalanced market right now, and a push into 1.6 is highly likely. So I'm watching a turbo today for a long. I'm not in yet, but if we get us a nice breakout on stream, then we can probably trade that. But yeah, I've been like struggling to find setups, to be honest. I've found this market like pretty boring lately. The trade, like, even though, you know, we're seeing some pretty decent moves across the board, like SEC getting pretty crazy move, and things like that. I've been personally like struggling to find some decent setups, at least like ones I have conviction in. CJ, morning. Will ETH do the gap fill structure wise? Because everyone is shorting the wrong coin right now. Bitcoin looks like it wants 90k. I agree. I think BTC can definitely push into 88k here. Again, the like you can play those continuation setups on BTC as well. But right now, there was the only one that was yesterday morning, which gave a nice push. So if we get a little pullback today into developing weekly value high, we can take a long targeting 84k at least. But obviously ETH is relatively a lot weaker than BTC. Like ETH still has not broken that that April high, and obviously BTC is now trading, you know, 4% above the April high. So it will be interesting to see whether ETH does catch up. For obvious reasons, you know, we do have a gap here, right? We have a gap that was left from the move down in January. But if we take a look at the sort of like the volume profile side of things, the complete history of ETH, but not just that. Let's just take, let's say, the last year of trading, right? Even though there is a gap here, you know, this gap was quite aggressive, and this move down was, you know, from the fact that BTC was also moving through quite a low volume node area, right? You know, we can see that on BTC. This area historically over the last year, right? Even 2 years going back to November 24, there's low volume here, right? There's low volume. So the difference is for ETH is that there's not actually a low volume node gap here. We do have historically over the last, you know, 1.5 years, quite a lot of volume being done in this region. So for ETH to gap up back through this area, I think it's going to be a lot harder for it to do something like that than it is for BTC, when BTC, you know, over the last 1.5 years, this has been a relatively low volume node area for BTC, right? We can see that here, right? There is that low volume node gap, like somewhat of a low volume node gap, and you compare it to ETH, there's not so much of a gap here, right? So it's a big level for ETH, right? This region, you know, this level dates way back, like all the way back here, right? You know, to 2023. You know, really good support, and then eventually really good support, and now like it's been really tough resistance. So ETH needs to flip like 2500 really. If ETH can flip 2500, then it can start to break out, but until then, like, it's struggling here. I'm not a massive fan of longing ETH up here, and personally, my idea still remains that until BTC can see a strong reclaim above 88k, I think this is setting up for a good swing short back down lower. Where's my chart? So this is kind of what I'm looking at here, right? For BTC, you know, this is a big level for it. Anywhere from this sort of 81 all the way up to like 88k is a big level. And you know, simple market structure and like support and resistance levels come into play here, with the fact that, you know, we had a strong support that was lost, it got rejected, and we broke down, right? We had a strong support that was lost, right? We eventually bounced back up, sort of traded into that area, rejected, right? Again, we have like a strong support here, eventually that was lost. We're now trading back up into this area, right? And this is going to be a really tough place for BTC. You know, I am very open to the fact that if BTC can flip 88k, right, and we break this sort of 88k, 81k resistance, this is a real statement. Like, if this was to happen, and we would see probably a move into the mid to high 100ks, not high 100ks, so 110k, 100 mid, like 105 to 110k basically. We can sort of look at last cycle as well and see the similarities in that move. Back here, you know, where we have a similar sort of thing, and I was discussing this on stream with JD yesterday, but until we had this like unnatural selling and those like big cascade events that were based off like news and events, right? We had the same sort of thing happening on BTC, right? Where you have a strong support, right? It breaks, we bounce up, we reject that, we break down. We have a strong support, we bounce up, we reject it, right? And then we break that support, we break down. We have a strong support that formed, rejects, we eventually get that move up, rejects, right? Again here, strong support that eventually breaks. But obviously this is when we started to get those really unnatural sell-offs from from events that were out of many people's control. But you had that same sort of concept where we would back, like form a support, we'd hold, we'd bounce up, and then we'd break it, right? Support would bounce up, and then we'd break it. So as soon as we started to get that shift in the way that BTC was trading, right? And you know, as soon as we had that support, right, we bounced up, we rejected, but we didn't make a new low, right? We didn't make a fresh low under here. We eventually flipped that support, and we can see how sort of the market, like dynamic and the structure changed from there. That's essentially how you can view this sort of like current price action from BTC. Essentially is that like we should be cautious of this breaking down to new lows, and if it doesn't, and if we break down and we hold like here and eventually flip, happy days. Or if, you know, even more so if we flip here and hold and break up, then that's massive. You're long, useless, and TRX from lower. Yeah. I'll have a look at those in a sec. I mean, TRX just is unfazed by anything. Grinds up. And yeah, TRX is now trading back above the prior yearly value high, so it's really impressive. Useless looks pretty good. It's a good chance this is gonna pop into like 5.7s. And flip, yeah, if it flips here like 4.7, probably a good chance it's gonna break out. Someone said, can I look at Pepe? Realistically, I should have probably waited for a 4-hour sell signal on lab before entering it. Maybe I was a little bit horny to take that. Too early. Pepe. I saw, yes, some memes bounced overnight. I'll discuss my thoughts on memes bouncing very shortly. There's some questions that I will answer before I do that. I have some thoughts on memes pumping and why I'm personally looking to get swing short up here on a lot of them, and on BTC. Pretty difficult place for Pepe here. We're trading into the developing yearly VWAP. Or I think 4.4 looks like a pretty good short for Pepe. Yeah, 4-4 looks like a pretty good short for Pepe. Some sort of spike up there. 0.045. If it flips there, then you'd get a real breakout. But until then, this kind of looks like it could break down. I'd like to short for 4-5. For a long, you could probably try a little intraday long into 4-1. 0.0041. Hi Bluesy, do you think how similar bottom was pretty much the first day of the war, the next local top could also just be a resolution? Yeah, I mean, the market hasn't really cared about the war situation for a while, at least in like BTC, you know, especially after the new, like the Sailor loot news last night, like a bit of like FUD on that front towards like STRC and MicroStrategy and stuff. Like the market didn't really move. But I would say that like the market is probably priced in the fact that like the war is slowly getting resolved. So you could say that once, yeah, if we move into 88k and like there is like resolution from the war and the market doesn't like pump based off that, you could potentially see a bit of a local top coming, yeah. But either way, this sort of 88k region is gonna be like massive, right? Yeah, seeing as we were talking about memes, what we want to pay close attention to is meme coins outperforming. So memes in general are like obviously one of the most known like crypto baskets out there, right? Like, you know, if anybody knows about crypto, they know about like Doge. Where's the Pepe chart? Yeah, like Pepe, like people who are in crypto, obviously they know about like Pepe and Bonk, but people who are not really into crypto, well, know about Doge. But the good thing about meme coins is often they can be a good indication of like risk appetite in the market. So if meme coins are pumping and sustaining those moves, often that's pretty telling of quite a lot of interest in the market, like people coming back and trading perps, and it often like has a good sentiment towards the rest of the market. But the only downside to that is that it's been a while since we've seen that risk appetite in the market, right? And as of lately, I say lately, probably as of the last 1.5 years, when meme coins have started to outperform in the market, it's been a pretty good indication of like that like brunt of the move being close to a local top, if that makes sense. So as soon as we, you know, start to see memes outperform and like start to see these meme coins do like not stupid numbers, because like 10 to 15% isn't stupid, but like if you look at WIF overnight, I think WIF had some, I think WIF's up like 40% in 2 days, or this week WIF bounced, yeah, like 40%. So I think, you know, when memes start pumping, it's as of late, it's been a good sign of like desperation in the market, people trying to like buy into memes because they think the market's like alt season's coming, and meme coins historically like have performed the best in terms of central exchange coins that like have decent liquidity, you know. But that's been a pretty good indication lately. There's been a couple of occasions. If we look at February, so basically this light green color is the meme coin basket. Oh, we've got an upbit listing. Okay, that makes sense. But anyway, you can see back on the 16th, we saw how memes like started to spike, and then the markets pulled back a little bit from the 16th. Again here, the 14th of Feb, you see how memes started to spike. We can see the market start to pull back a little bit. Again here, early January, meme coins started to spike. Eventually, you know, they were still outperforming, and then a few days after this spike, we had like that big pullback in January, right? From BTC. Right here we sort of had a similar thing where we had a range, right? BTC started to break that range, meme coins started to outperform, right, into this range breakout, and then, you know, moved into quite a big level. Again, we're seeing the same sort of thing here, right? We have this sort of breakout here from BTC. Now meme coins are starting to like pump again and outperform a little bit. I'm still early doors, but see if we can find some more examples. So this is the monthly spaghetti chart for baskets. Again here, right, we can see back in September the 13th, when was that? Right here, we got a little move up. Meme coins started to outperform into here. Market pulled back a little bit. So it's been a pretty good indication of when the market could be close to a little local top. Often it shows a little bit of desperation in the market. For now, we're okay. Obviously, meme coins are up there with the top performers, but you know, we have some other things outperforming right now. So it's not the end of the world, but it's something for us to be aware of. I'm always a little bit cautious when meme coins pump, and I'm open to that to change, right? Because if these meme coin moves can sustain, then we can see some really nice breakouts from crypto, and probably we can start to tell everyone that we're so back. But until then, very cautious into this region, and personally want to get some sort of swing short up here, and with a target back down towards like 67k eventually. Yeah, so sort of like I'm gonna start looking for shorts anywhere upwards of 85 to 88k on BTC. That should be a really nice place for us to get short. Okay, let's see what we can find today. I already had a little scan this morning, and I couldn't see too much. So these are the spikes I like to short, which is kind of what Lab had a little bit. But I don't want to reshort this. I don't really like if I get stopped on something to try a long or short on the same thing. Like Tom, see, this isn't necessarily a bad place to try and get short on Ton, but the trend is really aggressive right now. Like to try and short something like this. You see how like it's 30-minute. This is kind of invalidates the idea of trying to short a top gainer like this. Feels pumping today. Well, that's great. Dash is up, but Dash is probably up because Zek is up. It's near. Got all the classics up today. Phil, near, AR. Was taking us back to 2023. Even 2021, I guess. Look at the total monthly 2.62 trillion line. I personally think there's a high chance we fail to reclaim and close under budget. I don't really about this, but yeah, look at the monthly. Oh, you did say look at monthly, yeah. Pretty gnarly retest right now. I mean, you got 25 days. You know, you got 25 days for this to figure itself out. Closes above 2.6, then yeah. I mean, if you get a close, if like let's say the total closes above 2.6 trillion and BTC starts to flip 88k by the end of the month, like yeah, I think you definitely have to be prepared for a move into hundreds, but that's much later down the line, and I think until that happens, it makes sense to start looking for short into this area. It's kind of similar vibes to this, right? Similar. So like AR, so here, you know, you're getting that retest towards the developing weekly value or high, but the Z score isn't low enough for me to try and long a continuation setup here. You can also do it on the monthly, right? That's quite a nice setup. Bit of a divergence forming in here on the Z score. went to -2, 8% bounce. But these happen quite fast. These setups, like, you got to be on it. Like, you got to be ready again here. Like STRK, that was early this morning, but pretty nice setup. Developing weekly value high, retest -2 on the Z score. 11% bounce. So it's just a matter of like finding them or being prepared for these like retests to happen. Be on it. A lot of these retests happened overnight. Quite again, like nice retest on Farcoin overnight here. 4% bounce. This could be a nice one. ATH. Only downside is that we're trading below the developing yearly VWAP, but trading above the quarterly value arrow high, the developing monthly value arrow high, and the developing weekly value arrow high. So we could potentially try and get along into this 0.06 region. Yeah. Let's set some alerts for that. See, all these levels kind of coincide a little bit, so but yeah. Developing our quarterly view up here, so just got front runner. Potentially get like a bounce into the 0.007s maybe. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'll add that. I'm just waiting for the turf. I want to get long on this turbo, but I'm waiting for the Z score to go into -2 on the lower time frame on the 5 minute. It's kind of holding though. Same with this M coin. Just need a little bit of a drop and retest, and we can hop in. Did we get up to TH? Take a look at some stocks as well. We have a retest here on Hollow, but 5 minute Z scores down here. Only downside is it's a little bit overextended. It's not perfect. Yeah, like looks like a majority of these moves happened through Asia. Everything's kind of up a bit, so he's just grinding up, so it's pulling everything up with it. typically when you short, do you have a hard stop loss or do you prefer any closing price stop? Depends on like what I'm shorting really. For example, lab. So the lab short I took today, just based off the nature of this like scamming and how like aggressive it can move, I used a hard stop on this. Because sometimes these can just like move against you really quickly, and often like you could get slipped quite a bit if running a loose stop. On something like BTC, I mostly use a loose stop. So for example, if let's say I get a trigger for a short into 86k, you know, I would run a loose stop and basically I would close it if we started to show signs of accepting above sort of 86, 85k. If we start to show signs of above here, or like if we started to trade above the developing quarterly 2.5 to 3 standard deviation, then I would start to close it out. ATH might give us a bit of a retest here, which would be good. See if we can get a trigger to get in. See, that was quite a nice one. I missed that. %. Do you see what I mean? These sort of like drops into these areas happen so fast. You almost need to have alerts into that area so you can watch it come in. Like this trade is gone because this 5-minute Z score is already back to the midline. So like for example, we could potentially try a scalp long on TON into 215, 2.1 if we get a little flush into there today. So just have to set some alerts and wait. You also have to just like stay on top of your watch list because especially at the moment, these things are moving up pretty fast. If you can catch some spikes, you kind of need like volume and OI alerts. You can watch it. Maybe Farcoin is a short soon. Almost backfilled that wick. SPX as well. This could be a short soon. 4.6-ish for a short. Keep an eye on that. Yeah, I was looking at this a couple of weeks ago to get in, but I did not. You think a lot of the Bitcoin slow grind upwards has been primarily due to people front running the STRC bid, ETFs bit more the last 3 days. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of anticipation of the STRC bid, and we know previously like how Bitcoin moves, so for sure. And like you said as well, let's have a look at the ETF flows. ETF flows have been pretty mad. I mean, since the start of the month, yeah, 1.5 bill inflows, almost 500 mil, almost 500 mil again yesterday. But I've discussed this a lot. And ETFs always start to buy more when we're close to the highs. Let me find the... Give me a second. Change. Bear with. So I've discussed this a lot, but a lot of the time when the ETFs have sort of like been getting into the higher end of 500 to 1 bill region, you know, not always, like it's not always, like we can see here, like back in April last year, ETFs were buying, we still legged up, but they don't buy at the lows, right? Like the ETFs, they don't buy much at the lows. And a lot of the time, as soon as we start to see these numbers creeping into the 600 to 700 mil region, we've been pretty close to a local top, especially you know, over the past year or so. We can see here, right, 1.2 bill inflows back in, you know, September, and that was one second, sneeze. not September, sorry, July. Again here, we had that crazy amount of inflows, 1.2 bill again into the highs in a day back in October. Again here, you know, 700 mil inflow, 900 mil inflow, back to back, like 800 mil inflow days. Again, towards the highs back in January. And then, you know, we can sort of see that it's like, we go back to how well this is going to work. That works. Yeah. So, I mean, there probably just is an indicator, but like you can see how the ETF inflows increase, and then when we start to get into these higher levels, it's when the ETF inflows like sort of peak out, right? And then we top, and we start to see a majority of the inflows starts to get done towards the highs. So if we start to see a move into like 88, sort of at 88 high 80Ks, and we start to see ETF flows really start to peak into this, 700 to 1 bill region, it's definitely a good sign to start scaling into a short as well.
Yo, how's it going? What's up in Thailand? I've never been to Thailand, bro.
Or are you saying you're in Thailand? SDRK for a bid. This little pullback. Maybe Egan as well, but again, Z score isn't low enough, so. That was a pretty nice one on hype last night. That was actually this morning. %2 bounce, like it's flush into the developing weekly value high, 5 minute. Let's go sub 2. Tower's breaking 304, 300s. That's a big level for it. I was looking at trying to find a short on it last week into 270s. But I never got a trigger into here, into this 280 to 270 region. And it's now flipping 300, which is pretty massive for it. Back into this area. Log on Monday. Where's James? The Monero CEO. Or a CEO. You know, I have way too many coins that I'm watching, but I don't need to. Bio could be along soon. I got alerts set on that. Into 0.046 looks good. I was looking for a long on this yesterday, but that's gone. Yeah, this M coin is probably going to get a bit of a move up, but need a little 5-minute pullback on it and we can hop into it. Someone said, what about selling me? Yeah, I mean, that seems like the consensus right now. I mean, outside of whether it was May or not, like moving into this area, like into the mid to high 80s is a good place for people to be selling into, right? Anyone got any chart requests or anything? How do I look for a short on something like Tom? Typically, the RSI on the 4 hour, 12 hour has been overbought for ages now. Yeah, I mean, let's get a chart. So some coins are just not made to be like, they're just not there to be shorted, you know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. Not everything that goes up is a good short, right? Like standing in front of a moving train, and I mean, like when it's in this like grind mode PA, right? It's just like up only essentially. It's really difficult to short. Like the only short I would try and take on this is if we got some like really big spike up on like the 1 minute or the 5 minute chart, and like had some decent amount of liquidations come in on the order flow side of things, then I would consider a short. But overall, some coins are just not meant to be shorted back down. And like you said, for you, the 4 hour has been oversold for ages now. The 12 hour as well. Like I got a similar thing where the Z score is pretty aggressive. I mean, I sort of discussed at the start, but when there's a coin is like hugging the plus 2.5 to 3 standard deviation bands like this, it's not something I tend to opt to try and short. Even if I'm getting like sell signals. The situations I like to take shorts on these coins is when you get a spike up like this. But even now, like you can see how this is hugging 2.5 to 3 standard deviation band. Like I would wait for a big spike up or like a deviation, a break of structure, and then you could short it back down. But I don't like to try and short these coins with like super aggressive trend like that. Makes sense. So realistically, like ETH is probably not a bad short here. I don't really have a divergence on it, which I would like here, but because you can see that essentially this is an invalid sell signal, but you can see that essentially this level has not been, this 2.5 to 3 standard deviation has not been mitigated all week. But finally we're getting like a bit of a spike up here into it, so you could potentially try and take scalp short like this on ETH, right? but I wouldn't mind a little bit higher, like 2, 430 to short ETH. Maybe for a scalp, you could get a little 1% drop here. Possible. A little bit late though. Also, my shorts have just been not working lately. Like my short setups have, like there was a period in March where like I was shorting top gainers and they were just full retracing, but it's not been the case for a while. Like they seem to want to take you, like they'll spike up and then they'll go on and like grind up for a little bit and then like break down if they're going to at the moment. Whereas before they were sort of spiking up, consolidating a bit and then just dropping. And now they sort of like spike up, then they would like consolidate or grind higher, take you out, like get that extra squeeze and then drop. And like trying to time that, like timing the spike is fine, but timing that when the grinding up stops is the most difficult part, which is kind of what just happened to me on lab. You know, exact same thing that I was discussing here, right? We get that spike up and now it's just gonna grind, and you know, probably at some point it will drop back down, but like trying to time the grind is just really difficult, at least for me. What do you think about Zek? I mean, again, yeah, this was a similar thing, right? You get a spike up, right? Like you get a spike up and then it just grinds, like it's just grinding up again. This is kind of falls into that category of like what I was just saying about tons. Some coins are just not meant to be shorted, really. Even though I've got some sell signals for it up here. Like overnight, I probably would have taken the short. And so I guess like it depends on what the pump was from, but this trend is really aggressive as well. I don't think I would. I'm interested in shorting Zek. Yeah, exactly. When it's got a bit of like influencers talking about and stuff, it's like got eyes on it, you know. Maybe STRKs along soon. We can hold here. Oh, I had some people on Ondo. Yeah, I'll have a look at Ondo and then I'll probably wrap the stream up. As per usual, pretty boring EU session so far, not much happening. Ondo looks like a good long into 0.3. Actually set some longs there myself. Prior quarterly VWAP, developing quarterly value are high, developing yearly VWAP. Get a little drop into 0.3. I think that's and also developing monthly VWAP. I think that's a good place to get long. 0.3 on Ondo. Get a little drop into there. It's a lot of waiting at the moment in this market. Like, it's a lot of. I found it's a lot of searching and then a lot of waiting and missing. All right. Do I ever use Coinlines? Yeah, but I use Velo data, but it's basically the same thing. OI coming down with the price here. Seems like people closing longs. I mean, makes sense, right? Almost trading at 84k now. Try a little scalpy today on BTC. We can get a sweep into the developing weekly value or high. Setups I was discussing. 81,600 right now. All right. Thanks, guys. If you tune into the stream, that's the Discord where I'm posting all my thoughts and trades and stuff daily. Waiting for what? I'm just like waiting for trades. Like, just finding little opportunity at the moment. You know, it seems stupid even though the market's going like up only. I'm just struggling to find like entries essentially. Yeah. But yeah, looking to short 81 to 88 for a big, 85 to 88 for a big swing back down lower on BTC. And I'll see you guys around. I'll probably be streaming again on Twitch next week. Twitch and YouTube, live on both. But thanks everyone. Hope you have a good week. Bye bye.